Now, whatever you think of Apple, you have to agree that when they launch a new product, they really launch a new product. Huge press conference, lots of media attention. It's the new iPod, it's a smaller iPod, it's a classic iPod, new iPhone with new stuff. Well, in January, they made an awful lot of noise about this. It's billed as the world's thinnest, fully featured notebook. It is the MacBook Air. So we thought we'd take a closer look at it. And to put it into context, we've got a few other notebooks of note here. And to tell us more about all of them is Rory Reid, personal computer editor at CNET. Hi, Rory.
How you doing?
All right, you may touch it.
If I may, thank you.
Tell us about it. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's great. It's kind of the most divisive laptop in the world, though. Some people really love it, others hate it. From a design standpoint, I think Apple's really excelled themselves on this one.
Surprise, surprise.
It's super thin. It can almost like cut vegetables with it, if you like. It's so
Please
sharp.
don't try that at home, though. And one thing to notice is it is very sleek in as much as there's one button, the on-off button, and no visible ports anywhere. You know, it's very, very simple and sleek.
Yeah, it's a great design. It's designed as an ultra-portable laptop, so one that you would take with you on your travels. And in that sense, it excels. It's got like quite a big screen, 13.3 inches, quite a nice keyboard, so you never have to really compromise your typing speed.
And I believe it's an LED backlight.
It's LED backlight, yep, which has
easy on the battery.
Yep, exactly.
And the lights on the keyboard come on at certain points if it gets
do.
dark.
If you're typing in the dark and you can't see what you're doing, the keyboard will light up so you can see what you're doing.
But how does it compare to other notebooks? I mean, how good a workhorse is it?
If you're doing basic stuff like typing in a word processor or surfing the internet, it's absolutely fine. But when you start to look at the specs, it doesn't really add up to the other machines in its class. You've got a 1.8 gigahertz CPU, which is fine, but you've got an 80 gigabyte hard drive, which is very small in today's terms. Also, one of the things about the MacBook Air is that it doesn't really have much connectivity with the outside world. You've got wireless, which is great, but you've got one USB port and no Ethernet port, so you can't connect it to a wide network.
In fact, we've actually got a demonstration of what you need to do if you need to turn this into what I would call a fully featured notebook. So to connect to an external monitor, you need an adapter, like one of those. If you want to connect to the Ethernet, so not wireless but a wide internet connection, you need one of these.
Disadvantage with that, though, is that you use up the only USB port you have in order to give yourself an Ethernet port, and then you can't connect your iPod or any other USB devices, so you have to really make sacrifices unless you decide to carry around the USB hub, which nobody wants to do.
Well, it kind of defeats the object of being ultra-portable. And one other thing, there's no optical drive, there's no DVD or CD drive in here. If you want one of those, you need to plug that into the USB.
Yeah, that's an optional extra as well. Just like the Ethernet adapter, you have to pay extra. You have to also pay extra for this optical drive, which surprisingly doesn't work with other laptops. You can't plug this into any other laptops.
Surely not, an Apple-specific piece of hardware?
Who'd have thought it?
I'm shocked.
The problem is it's too thin to include an optical drive, so Apple say. But I wonder whether that's the case because other manufacturers have managed it. Toshiba, people like Sony, they have smaller, lighter machines that come with more features, including optical drives.
Well, let's look at one of those now. This is billed as the world's lightest laptop, am I right? So this is the thinnest, this is the lightest.
Yep.
And
this is the Toshiba Portage R500.
Right.
It has a slightly smaller screen than the MacBook Air. It's 12.1 inches, and it's also very, very light. The lightest one you can get is actually 779 grams, which is about 500 grams lighter than a MacBook Air.
Right, and how does it compare spec-wise and price-wise?
Price-wise, they're about the same, but you do get a better spec with this in some areas. For instance, you get more USB ports, so you can connect more than one thing at a time.
Actually, you can see there that there's a whole range of different ports. There's all the ports that you would expect, you know, headphones and microphone, USBs galore. Yeah.
One of the things about laptops, actually, is that people think you can use it outside, and in many cases, that isn't true. With a MacBook Air, you get a glossy screen coating, and when the sunlight shines on it, all you see is your own reflection. Yeah. With the Portage R500, it's got a transflective display, which means you can switch off the backlight, and it also has a matte finish, so you can actually use it outdoors, which is great.
Okay, well, we've got the thin and we've got the light there. Previous to the MacBook Air being the thinnest thing in the world ever, this Dell laptop here was the thinnest thing in the world ever. And I believe that's quite a reasonable price compared to these two, and the spec's not bad either.
The Dell XPS M1330 has a couple of advantages. The first one is that you can actually customize it to whatever you want. The minimum spec comes in at a very, very low price, about half the price of the MacBook Air. But if you match the spec of the MacBook Air with the Dell, you actually get the Dell for a cheaper price.
Okay, so those are three fully featured notebooks. We also thought you'd really like to see this. Now, you may have heard of the One Laptop Per Child project, which is the really, really cheap, light, simple notebook which is being sent out to the developing world. This is not it, but it's very, very similar. Rory, tell us about this.
All right, what we got here is the RM Asus MiniBook. It's a very, very small laptop. It's got a 7.5-inch display. The keys are very cramped and tightly packed together. But the advantage of that is it's very, very lightweight. It's lighter than the MacBook Air, and the important thing is that it costs a fraction of the price. It's less than a fifth the price of the Air. But what you get is actually quite good. It runs a Linux operating system.
So crucially, they haven't paid for the Windows license, which cuts the price
you
down.
bypass Windows and you save a lot of money in the process. You've also got very, very lightweight processing components inside here, so it's not as fast as the MacBook Air, but it does run things fast enough for your everyday needs.
It does the job.
Exactly. You can do things like word processing, surfing the internet. And some of these things actually come with a built-in modem, so you can surf the internet wherever you are.
I think you can pay a little bit extra for a 3G data card.
Exactly,
to connect. And this has got a solid state drive inside, so no spinning parts, so that kind of gives it the feel that you can just chuck it in your school bag, carry it around, and it is the same size as a textbook, really.
Yeah, it's nearly indestructible actually with a solid-state hard drive.
Rory, don't tempt me.
Well, the disadvantage of the solid-state drive is that it's not very capacious. It's small. I think it's 4 gigabytes you can actually store on here, which is enough to you know, store a few images here and there, some songs.
But really, very, very small by today's standards.
Yeah. The good thing though is that you can add a separate memory card. You can add up to 32 gigabytes via this memory card here at the left-hand side. So you can get around that if you do need more space. But again, it's all about price with this model.
Okay, Rory, thank you very much for your words of wisdom.
No problem.